welcome to Karen's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a summer ratatouille. This is a vegetable dish that's going to include yellow squash, zucchini squash, fresh tomatoes, and eggplant. We're going to be making it on a tomato base, and I'm going to take you through the steps. Make sure that you are preparing in a dish that can go in your oven. So let's get started. We're going to start to saute the onion. So we've got one big sweet 10-15 onion chopped and 2 tablespoons of oil. You want to saute and check on them and see how they're doing. Starting to look good. I'm going to go ahead, it smells yummy in here. I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 full red bell pepper, 1 yellow bell pepper, and it's just been chopped. So I'm going to add that to our base of the onion. I'm just going to saute for a few minutes and let these cook down. I'm going to add the garlic. Again, I think I've told you before, I like to use the garlic that's dehydrated so I don't have to have the garlic, fresh garlic on my hands. So 1 teaspoon equals 1 clove of garlic. So I'm going to put in 4. So there's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons, and 4. I don't put the garlic right at the beginning because I don't want it to burn. If you leave garlic in too long, it can burn. And then it doesn't smell good and it doesn't look good, and that's not what we're going for. I like to use grinding salt and grinding pepper. So this is my pepper, and I usually use around 20 twists. And I use around 10 twists of my salt, whatever kind of grinding salt that you like to use. I'm going to give this another little stir, and we're just about ready to put the tomatoes in. In another minute or 2, you can see that the onions are translucent. That means you can see through them. They're clear, and your vegetables are softening. We don't want them to cook too much, we just want them softened. Okay. So now I'm going to add a can of crushed peeled tomatoes. San Marzano is my go-to brand. This is the brand that I like. And if you'll notice, it says peeled tomatoes. It does not say crushed tomatoes. When I had my groceries delivered, they delivered peeled tomatoes. So in order for me to get crushed tomatoes, I put these into my food processor, and then I put them back into the can. So they are crushed now. Just gonna pour them in. So now you're going to continue cooking this down for a few more minutes. Turn this down just a little bit. I don't want them to boil. After this is cooked down, we're going to add the fresh basil on top, and then we're going to start building the ratatouille. So we have just a stack of sliced tomatoes. We have an eggplant. We have yellow squash, and we have zucchini. So I'm going to show you a few little knife skills just so you can understand how we want to have things cut. Not too thick, not too thin, but you do not need a mandolin. So this one I already started, and you're just going to cut them in small slices. So they're about, you see them? About a 1/16 of an inch. So a little bit smaller than usual because you're going to stack these together. Now the rest of our yellow squash. This doesn't have to be perfect. If they're too big, you just cut them in half. When you get to the eggplant, the smaller end of the eggplant, you don't need to cut. When you get to the larger end of the eggplant, you might decide to cut it in half. And I'll show you what I've done. So here's your tomato. I usually skip the end. This is a juicy one. And now I'm going to use my favorite little tool, my herb scissors. I'm going to be cutting up some fresh basil that just came out of my yard. I'm going to just put them on this, right on this plate, and I'm going to sprinkle it on. After we get our tomato sauce completed, we'll put this on, and we're not going to cook it. They're going to stay, the basil will stay raw. So here's a little plate of basil, and this comes with this fun little tool to get everything out. So when it gets stuck in the scissors, you get it out. So our tomato sauce has been cooking down for a few minutes, and it's boiling right now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. So be very careful, because the pan that you're using is going to go straight in your oven. So make sure that you use something that is oven proof. I'm going to stir it around again, and then we're going to add the basil leaves that I chopped a few minutes ago. Just sprinkle them on top. And if you want to just even put just whole leaves, that's fine too. You don't have to chop them up. And then we're going to start to build the ratatouille. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with a little ring of eggplant. It doesn't matter what order, however you want to do it. But as you look at it, my zucchini are a little smaller. So I'm going to put 2 zucchinis and then a tomato. And then you're going to put it on, and you're going to start building it. So you just set it down. Be careful. And then I always do it in the same order. So I started with the eggplant, then the yellow squash, then the zucchini, then a tomato. And you just stack them in. And we're going to do it all the way around. When you get to the part of the eggplant where it's very large at that end, just cut it in half so it fits. Doesn't matter, because once you put it in, you're not going to see the bottom half. You're only going to see the little half moon part anyway. You see how that looks? When you're ready to complete your circle, you just lift up the first one and you tuck it under, and it looks like it's gone completely around. Now I'm going to do an interior circle as well. If you have any of your vegetables left over, just throw them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in your refrigerator, and saute them for a different meal. And now we're at the last stack, so we're going to stick it right in the middle, and you're just going to kind of tuck it in. Turn over my eggplant. Get everything tucked in. This doesn't have to be super neat, so you don't have to go back and adjust anything. And now I'm going to add the pesto. If you remember back from our earlier class, we made pesto. If you want to review any of the lessons that we've already done, any of the episodes, they are all archived on my YouTube channel. Just go to Karen Harberg on YouTube, and you can review any of these recipes, and feel free to share. So this is the pesto from our earlier lesson, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little around the edges and in between, and then we're going to bake this for an hour. There's no specific amounts, I'm just putting it around the edges, and then I'm going to do it on the interior side as well. So I didn't measure the amount of pesto. I used about a half of a recipe, which is a little bit more than a half of a cup. But for my husband, you can't have too much. He'll probably add some at the end. Doesn't this look beautiful? This dish is fabulous to serve on a buffet if you're having guests over. And as I always say, you can make it in smaller containers for individuals. So we're gonna go ahead and put it in my preheated oven. I preheated the oven to 375 convection, and we're gonna put it inside for 1 hour. So I'm gonna set my timer on for 45 minutes, because I always like to check things a little bit earlier, but it should take about an hour. I'll see you back in about 45 minutes. Bye. Well, welcome back. It's been about 45 minutes, and our ratatouille has been baking on 375 degrees in a convection oven. It's looking pretty good, so we're going to take it out and let it rest on the counter for a few minutes before we dig into it. The biggest variable in making the ratatouille is the amount of juice or liquid that's in your fresh tomatoes. Your canned tomatoes is going to be consistent. Your zucchini, the yellow squash, the eggplant, pretty consistent. But your tomatoes could be variable. These tomatoes were very juicy, so it may take a few minutes for it to kind of solidify and get to where you can take it out of your pan neatly. So we're going to let it rest for a few minutes, and I'll come back in about 15 minutes. Well, our ratatouille's had a few minutes to rest, so I'm going to cut into it and see how it looks. Dig in anywhere, doesn't matter. Go all the way to the bottom so you get all that nice tomato sauce and put it on your plate. So remember to dig all the way to the bottom to get all of your layers. Your tomato sauce is on the bottom, and then all the layers of vegetables are on top. Thanks for coming to Karen's Kitchen. Enjoy. Bye.